I didn't fly 3 hours for this, I muttered to myself, blinking at the hotel ballroom chandelier like maybe it'd drop and take me out of this corporate circus. The air reeked of stale coffee, cheap cologne, and manufactured enthusiasm. It was day 2 of the quarterly retreat, and the PowerPoint slides were getting more aggressive than the cocktails from last night. That's when Tyler, new director with a jawline like a soap actor and a personality forged entirely from LinkedIn buzzwords, sidled up to me like a villain in a B-movie. "Hey Marcy," he said, voice all faux casual, "can we chat for a sec? Privately." His hand didn't touch my arm, but it hovered like it wanted to. Strike one. We ducked into the coat check room. No coats. Just silence, a flickering light, and the faint scent of mothballs and ego. Tyler folded his arms like he was about to fire me from a boy band. "Look, I've been reviewing numbers," he said, not looking at any actual numbers. "And frankly, you're dead weight. These client relationships you've been nurturing, they're just not scalable in today's automation-first model." My ears buzzed, not from rage, not even shock. Just the cold, glacial realization that this man, this walking TED talk, had no idea what I actually did. 12 years. He reduced me to a drag on his shiny new system. My pulse didn't quicken. I just nodded like I was listening to an audiobook on how to alienate your entire client base in under 3 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink too hard. I just walked past him, back into the ballroom, where a junior account exec was pretending to understand the words Q4 synergy. I slipped into my chair, opened my laptop, clicked into my Outlook settings like I was ordering lunch. One rule: auto-forward. All emails received in my inbox right arrow Tyler's inbox. No notification, no CC. Just quiet, merciless transparency. And hey, while I've got you here, 95% of folks watching this kind of story don't subscribe. Which is wild, because I'm out here serving corporate takedowns like Marcy's handing out truth grenades in a boardroom buffet. If you want to help me hit my first ever 10,000 subscribers, now's the time. Smash this small button. It costs you nothing but means the world to me. Okay, back to the bloodbath. By the time the retreat wrapped, Tyler was giving a closing speech about cutting inefficiencies with all the grace of a man choking on his own tech jargon. I clapped, not for him, for myself, for the revenge already in motion. I didn't come in the next morning. Took a personal day, kind that HR can't question and middle managers find threatening. But I wasn't curled up at home. I was downtown, sipping burnt diner coffee across from a recruiter named Tasha, who had been leaving me voicemails every quarter since 2018. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Let's just say he thinks relationships are meaningless," I said, stirring in a cream that expired in 2023. "Let's see how meaningless they feel by Friday." Meanwhile, back at the office, my inbox, empty to me, was pulsing like a Vegas slot machine straight into Tyler's lap. Client emails, questions, deadlines, concerns, some friendly, some not so much. And the best part, he couldn't forward them. Not without context. Not without sounding like he just woke up from a coma in someone else's job. Tyler thought I was a dinosaur. He didn't realize dinosaurs ruled the earth longer than his entire tech stack will exist. Next morning, I didn't show up. No blazer, no badge scan, no latte balancing act in the parking lot. Just a 6-word email to HR, taking a personal day. "Marcy, nothing illegal about it. Nothing loud either. Just absence. Strategic, weaponized absence." Tyler, fresh off his victory lap, probably strutted into the office with a smugness so thick you could butter toast with it. He was the kind of guy who thought quiet people were weak and loud people were smart. His calendar was likely blocked out for reorg follow-ups and client interface optimization, code for sticking his nose where it didn't belong and calling it leadership. But something funny happened when I wasn't there to absorb the chaos like I always did. At 9:13 a.m., Tyler received his first ping. A subject line reading, "Marcy." He'd eyes on revised Q3 SOW. It was from Franklin, a VP at a biotech firm that bills 6 figures quarterly and uses punctuation like a weapon. The email was terse, time-stamped, and urgent. Tyler opened it and saw attachments, acronyms, a reference to a dinner I had with Franklin in June where he nearly cried over the regulatory clause in Section 12.2. Tyler responded, "Thanks, reviewing now." No smile. No reassurance. No reminder that Franklin's daughter just got into Cornell. No mention of the joke we had about the shrimp cocktail disaster at last year's conference. Crickets. At 10:21, another email. This one from Delia at the aerospace account. Hey, is Marcy okay? She didn't answer my call this morning. We're ready to sign off, just need her go-ahead on the maintenance clause. Tyler replied with a robotic, Marcy is currently unavailable. Use direct communications to me for now. Delia didn't respond. By 11 o'clock, Tyler had 8 messages, each increasingly unsettled. One client asked flat out, are we being reassigned? Another forwarded a thread of old jokes between me and their CTO, adding, not sure how to explain this stuff to a new person. Marcy just gets us. Tyler tried. God bless him, he tried. He started answering in batches, copying the account managers, using phrases like happy to assist and I'll circle back. But you can't circle back to a relationship you were never in. You can't manage nuance with macros. At 1:17 p.m., he called a meeting with the client team. 3 people showed up late, confused. Tyler barked out a directive that all client inquiries should now come through him for consistency. Nobody asked questions, but you could smell the anxiety in the room like a burnt K-cup. Meanwhile, it was at the library. No laptop, just a paperback and the peaceful hum of fluorescent lights. There's something liberating about being unreachable, something surgical even. The phone buzzed once, voicemail from HR, just checking in. Hope you're feeling okay. I let it rot. By 3:42, Tyler sent his first internal Slack message asking if anyone had Marcy's client onboarding documents for Northbridge. I knew he wouldn't find them. I wrote most of that process into memory, customized per client like a barista who remembers your oat milk preference and the time your dog died. You don't put that in a spreadsheet. You carry it. And now he was carrying my inbox, one client grenade at a time. He just didn't know they had pins already pulled. He wanted to prove I wasn't necessary. He was about to learn that when people think you're invisible, you can make your absence louder than any entrance ever was. Wednesday started like a flat tire on a rainy freeway, slow, awkward, and grinding toward something worse. By 9 o'clock a.m., Tyler's inbox was already coughing up smoke. The first sign of real trouble came from Tim over at Kinksa Pharma. Tim didn't escalate problems unless a server caught fire or someone tried to sneak a new NDA clause past legal. But that morning, he looped in his account manager and a VP. Subject line, unacceptable. Where's Marcy? Tyler replied, I'm the new primary contact. Let's discuss your concerns. He even added one of those smiling face emojis like that would somehow lubricate the situation. Didn't work. 10 minutes later, Kinksa's legal counsel chimed in, dry as dust. Per clause 3.2, we reserve the right to pause contract execution if our point of contact is reassigned without mutual consent. Pause contract execution. 6 words, $500,000. Tyler had to read it twice. At 10:11 a.m., 2 other clients scheduled urgent calls. One of them, a notoriously icy data analytics firm from Denver, had never asked for anything urgent in the 10 years I'd worked with them. Their motto was basically kill them with coldness. Now they were asking for an immediate sync with someone who understands our environment. Translation, not Tyler. Meanwhile, he was scrambling, started looping in anyone with a pulse, account managers, junior analysts, the girl who managed the intern lunch calendar. Every email got longer, more defensive. Just looping in Sarah for historical context, adding Jeff since he's run point on similar contracts, attaching a rough draft for your review, though I'm still familiarizing myself, but no one was buying it. Client tone shifted. The punctuation tightened. Words like concerned and disappointed appeared. An email came in with the all-caps subject, Marcy or we freeze funding. Not subtle, not polite. Inside the office, the gossip was hot enough to blister drywall. People whispered in hallways. Slack threads got quieter. Someone in finance asked, is Marcy on vacation or, and got a shrug in return. An intern told HR she overheard Tyler cursing in the stairwell. At least 2 senior account leads started privately reviewing their own client portfolios, trying to calculate how many of their relationships were built by Marcy. Tyler, meanwhile, started pacing like a man who just realized he built his entire career on wet cardboard. His emails got terser. He stopped using emojis. He stopped using verbs. And me, I was walking. Real walking, the kind where you leave your phone on Do Not Disturb and your ego at the curb. I met Tasha, my recruiter, near a park just outside downtown. Brought coffee and a folder the color of expensive lawsuits. You look calm, she said. I am, I said, because it's not personal anymore. It's proof. We sat on a bench. Geese honked in the distance like they were mocking MBA degrees. Tasha opened the folder. Inside was a draft offer and a sheet with 4 names. She looked at me sideways. "These are the clients you think would follow?" "I know they would," I said. "Hell, some are already trying." Tasha smiled, all teeth. "Gonna make a lot of people very nervous." Back at the office, Tyler was trying to convince Kinks's legal team that he was just as equipped as I was. Poor guy. He thought client loyalty was transferable like a parking pass. By 4:00 p.m., he emailed the CEO. The subject line read, "Need to discuss legacy account coverage ASAP." The body was 3 lines long and smelled like fear. It was only Wednesday. The match hadn't even touched the gasoline yet. Thursday morning opened like a confession, quiet, deliberate, with the faint scent of closure. I wore black, not for drama, but because it matched the mood, half funeral, half rebirth. The coffee shop was upscale, corporate fancy, the kind with $6 lattes and leather menus. I took a corner booth and ordered a mint tea because coffee that morning felt too aggressive. Across from me sat Laura Bennett, my old mentor, woman who'd taught me how to read silence in a boardroom and when to let it fill the air like smoke. She was COO now at Fulcrum Strategies, one of our top competitors. Gray streak in her hair, pearl earrings sharp as daggers. She didn't hug me. She just sat down, folded her hands like she was back in litigation, and said, "So, how bloody is it?" I slid a sheet of paper across the table. No logos, no names, just industries, contract sizes, pain points, renewal dates. It was a hit list disguised as a spreadsheet. "These are the ones most likely to walk," I said, "and they're calling me, not the firm." Laura scanned it with her lawyer eyes. "You've built a small army." "I built a village," I corrected. "Tyler thinks loyalty is just another SAW metric. He forgot people still pick up the phone." She looked up. "And what do you want from us?" "A soft landing," I said. "Quiet onboarding. Dedicated onboarding team. I don't want to make a splash. I want to make a siphon." Laura smirked, poetic. "You know the board's going to ask what kind of guarantee we have that clients will follow." "They're already threatening to," I said, sipping the mint tea like it wasn't boiling. "You don't need a promise, you need a runway." She nodded slowly. "We'll draft something. I'll start the background checks today." Meanwhile, back at my old firm, Tyler was unraveling faster than a bargain bin sweater. Around 10:30 a.m., he sent a firm-wide email titled, "Clarity on Client Communication," because nothing says I'm in control like all caps and a nervous subject line. The email was 5 paragraphs of insecure micromanagement. All client contact must be rerouted through him immediately, no exceptions. Even informal conversations needed to be approved. He included buzzwords like centralized visibility and unified brand messaging, which translated loosely to "I am panicking" and "don't trust anyone." Within an hour, 4 senior account managers sent passive-aggressive replies, like "just to clarify," and "can you provide a template for how we're meant to respond to urgent client needs in the meantime?" The CEO didn't reply. HR didn't reply. But someone in IT quietly removed my name from the Slack directory, meaning Tyler had realized I wasn't coming back. He didn't know where I was going, and that uncertainty was more powerful than any resignation letter I could have drafted. Emotionally, I was in a weird place. Not angry, not smug, something else, something quieter. I thought of the conferences I'd attended, the babies I'd sent gifts for, the late-night panics I'd soothed with nothing but a spreadsheet and a well-timed call. I hadn't just managed accounts. I'd managed trust. Now some venture-backed spreadsheet cowboy was trying to replace that with analytics dashboards and Slack bots. I wasn't fighting for a paycheck anymore. I was fighting for the dignity of what I'd built. And Tyler, he was trying to glue together a ship mid-sinking, using buzzwords as caulk. Friday morning, the voicemail hit like a pipe bomb in a dollhouse. It was from Hal Vernon, Vernon Tech Solutions, one of our oldest, grumpiest, most brutally loyal clients, kind of guy who called every quarter just to yell about the font size on a PDF, but still sent Christmas cards to the front desk. Hal had been with the firm since the BlackBerry days. He once said I was the only person in corporate America who actually listens. His message, left at 7:12 a.m., was 2 sentences long. "If Marcy's out, we're out. No offense to your new guy, but we don't build trust with LinkedIn bios." He didn't scream, didn't threaten, just stated a fact like he was reading the weather report. But for legacy account with 3 open renewals and $2 million in pending services, it may as well have been a declaration of war. Tyler heard the voicemail an hour later and went sheet white, according to someone on the 6th floor. He waited until lunch to forward it to the CEO, adding a 1-line message that might have worked if the house weren't already on fire. This seems like a misunderstanding, working on damage control. But legal wasn't buying it, not anymore. They were already deep into an inquiry of their own, asking pointed questions like which clients are considered at risk, and was there a formal reassignment of accounts? Worse, HR piped up in the 2:00 p.m. staff check-in with a landmine of a question. What is Marcy's official status right now? Was her departure processed through the termination workflow? Turns out it wasn't. No offboarding, no paperwork, no final HR meeting. Tyler had never followed protocol. He just whispered his little coop into my ear and strutted away like the world would fill in the blanks for him. That moment of arrogance was now biting into the company's ankle like a feral dog. Without an official exit record, there was no legal barrier keeping me from contacting clients. There were no non-competes, no NDAs triggered. I was still technically employed, which meant every step I took outside that firm's walls was perfectly clean. That's when the board got looped in. 4 members, 2 lawyers, 1 passive-aggressive email thread titled Urgent, Client Retention Risks Please Review Immediately. The tone was surgical, cold, like they were already planning who to pin this on if things imploded by quarter close. Meanwhile, I was sitting in a booth at a quiet diner off the highway, finishing a grilled cheese and rereading a soft landing contract that now included a performance bonus tied to client transitions. Laura's team was fast, efficient, ruthless in the good way. That's when my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't expected, Elliot CTO. I stared at the screen. We hadn't talked in weeks. I tapped open the message. Are you okay? I didn't know. This isn't what we wanted. Call me if you need anything. I read it twice. Didn't respond, because this wasn't about feelings anymore. This wasn't even about betrayal. It was about legacy, mine. For 12 years, I was the glue. The person who remembered birthdays, who rewrote so's at midnight, who once rerouted a FedEx delivery across 3 states to save a prototype. But none of that lived in the CRM. None of it counted to a guy like Tyler, until the glue started peeling, and everything cracked. By Monday morning, the cracks weren't cracks anymore, were fault lines. Contracts that had been rolling forward like clockwork were suddenly stuck. Not canceled, not rejected, just stalled. Silent. The kind of silence that means someone somewhere is rethinking everything. One client missed a quarterly sync for the first time in 5 years. Another declined a scheduled call with the sales team, citing internal reassessment. That was code for, we're shopping around. And no one wanted to say it out loud. Everyone could feel it in their gut. This wasn't just friction. This was failure beginning to gel. The sales team went into full scramble mode. Cold calls warmed up. PowerPoints multiplied like rabbits. One junior AE tried resurrecting an old client confidence deck from 2021 and slapped Tyler's headshot on the title slide. Even the font looked desperate. But it wasn't enough. Because the problem wasn't pitch decks or pricing. The problem was absence, my instincts, my memory, my actual human relationships with people who now felt abandoned or, worse, commodified. At 11:17 a.m., Tyler snapped. It started as a reply all to a quick follow-up email from a client who'd been trying to get clarity on a delayed timeline. They were asking, very politely, who would be their primary moving forward and whether certain negotiated terms would be honored. Tyler's response: frankly, chaos is due to Marcy's refusal to collaborate during the transition. We are handling her damage control. He meant to send it to the internal team only. He didn't. The email went to the client and to their procurement department. And thanks to a legacy CC on that thread, to Laura Bennett, COO of Fulcrum Strategies, my new boss. Word spread within 10 minutes. I got a text from Laura that simply said, he just gift-wrapped the onboarding, followed by a champagne emoji. By 2:30 p.m., the CEO called an emergency meeting with Tyler, legal, and the head of client success. Nobody smiled. Nobody took notes. Tyler tried to spin it, citing context and frustration with communication lapses, but the email was already screenshotted, forwarded, and living rent-free in 5 inboxes. The CEO stared at him and said flatly, you just admitted liability to a competitor. In writing, back at the diner, my unofficial headquarters by now, I sat with Laura and signed the final version of the contract. Clean, ironclad, sweet as revenge on a Sunday morning. Clause 7.3 was the kicker. Any client who initiates direct contact with Marcy post-transition will be eligible for priority onboarding and fee stabilization for the first 6 months. Translation: If they want me, they get me. We don't charge extra to take them from the burning building. My phone buzzed again. Another client. Hey, heard a rumor. Are you somewhere else now? We'd like to talk, quietly. Laura glanced at the screen. That's 5 this week. I nodded, signing the last page. And Tyler's out here blaming collaboration issues. She grinned. Let him. Makes us look classy by comparison. Outside, it started to rain, the calm kind that makes traffic slow down and phone calls feel heavier. Inside, the contract sat on the table like a loaded gun with the safety off. Tyler wanted to streamline the company. He just didn't know he'd streamline me straight into position to gut him without lifting a finger. Tuesday morning came in cold. Not the weather, just the feeling. That clinical kind of cold that hangs in boardrooms when everyone's pretending nothing's wrong. Entire revenue lines bleed out under the table. At 8:03 a.m., the CEO got the email that officially turned this from a crisis into a catastrophe. It was from Northstead Systems, the firm's biggest client by a mile. Their name alone paid for the holiday bonuses most years. They didn't send many emails, just contract renewals, bulletproof specs, and the occasional thank you note when something exploded, and we didn't. This one had no fluff. Subject, formal notice contract exit clause 4.5 body. Given the removal of Marcy from our account support and no comparable replacement offered, we will be exercising our exit clause effective immediately. Any attempt to retain our business will require direct conversation with Marcy. If she is no longer affiliated with your firm, we consider the matter closed. Signed by the VP of Ops and CC'd to legal, procurement, and bless them. Tyler, $4 million. Gone, not negotiated, not debated, just snapped off like a rotten branch. An intern in finance leaked the reaction. CEO saw the subject line, cursed out loud, and didn't even finish reading before calling my number. I saw his name flash across my phone as I stirred sugar into my coffee. Let it ring. Watched the voicemail icon pop up, then ignored that too. 3 minutes later, I got a text from Tasha, a recruiter. They're in full panic mode. CEO yelling. Tyler's been pulled from everything client-facing. That last bit made me pause, not smile, just pause. Tyler had finally been yanked off the front lines like a soldier, too stupid to stop firing into his own camp. He'd spent 2 weeks trying to replace me with automated email threads and jargon-filled apology calls. And now the firm was bleeding clients who wanted relationships, not scripts. Internal fallout was immediate. One senior account lead submitted PTO for the rest of the week. Another started forwarding their resume around. Legal called for a retroactive audit of client interactions, trying to figure out how many at-risk accounts hadn't formally filed anything yet, but were quietly ghosting calls. Renewals tanked. 3 clients who'd been 90% confirmed last week were suddenly need to revisit scope, which is client code for we're walking. We're just being polite about it. Tyler, for his part, was nowhere. Rumor was he'd been quietly reassigned to strategy work, corporate exile with a nicer title. He still had his office, for now, but someone from HR had taken his name off the internal CRM admin list, which told me everything I needed to know. At 2:12 p.m., I finally listened to the voicemail the CEO left. His voice wasn't angry, wasn't even rehearsed. It was flat. Marcy, we clearly misjudged things. I'd like to discuss options. I know there were mistakes, but if there's anything we can do to make this right, I'm open. Please call me. I didn't call back because I wasn't a cautionary tale anymore. I was the meteor. And Tyler had built his kingdom in a crater without realizing it. Let them scramble. Let them patch the holes with interns and LinkedIn templates. I wasn't theirs to recall. I was already busy building something better, one stolen client at a time. Wednesday, 6:42 p.m., EST. The boardroom lights were still on. An intern from IT, smart kid, terrible poker face, leaked that the emergency board session had started just after lunch and hadn't let up since. The original calendar invite had said Strategic Client Retention Framework, but by hour 2, it became clear this wasn't a framework meeting. This was a funeral. Board grilled the CEO like a rotisserie chicken. Why wasn't Marcy's departure formally processed? Why weren't clients informed? Why is our biggest account now on Fulcrum's client list? Why was Tyler, of all people, given direct oversight of high-value portfolios without an internal review? At 4:08 p.m., Tyler was summoned to the Zoom call. At 4:11, he was gone. Mid-sentence, started saying something about modernizing the relationship lifecycle when the chairwoman cut him off. Thank you, Tyler. We won't be needing your input any further. Click. Removed from the call, removed from the firm, just like that. By 5 o'clock, the board was in closed session. And at 6:09, my phone rang again. Same number, same CEO. I let it vibrate twice this time before answering. Marcy, he said, voice low, not beaten. Just smaller. We talk. There was a long silence between us. Just the hum of my ceiling fan and the soft clink of ice melting in a glass. I finally said, your director told me I was meaningless, so I took his advice. I disappeared. He exhaled, slow and shaky. That was a mistake. Yes, I said, it was. Another pause. You could feel the pride deflating on his end like a balloon left too close to a space heater. I don't have an excuse. I didn't see it until it was too late. We've lost 5 renewals this week. 2 more are threatening to follow. Clients don't threaten, I said. They warn. Once. He was quiet again. Then, is there anything we can offer? Anything I can say? Even just a conversation about coming back? I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was sliding behind the skyline, turning the buildings gold and cruel. You can say you underestimated me, I said. Don't say it for me. Say it to your board. I would do anything to fix this, he murmured. You can't, I replied, because the damage isn't about money, it's about respect. And you let someone who didn't earn mine take everything I built and treat it like filler between spreadsheets. He tried again. Marcy, please, no, I said. Calm, surgical, I'm not coming back. Not for more money. Not for new title. Not for a room full of apologies. Then what can I do? Remember this the next time someone quiet saves your company for 10 years straight, I said, and hung up. I stood there in the silence, watching the last light fade. Somewhere across the city, Laura was finalizing client onboarding for 2 more names I'd known since their first purchase order. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was reclamation, and I was almost done. Thursday, 9:01 a.m. Marcy Ellis, Senior Vice President, Client Strategy at Fulcrum Strategies. That was the headline. Right there on LinkedIn. Live, public, clean, no fanfare. No grand I'm thrilled to announce post. Just the update, sitting there like a loaded gun in plain view. The comments started slow, industry folks offering cautious congrats, a few polite wishing you well nods from former coworkers who were smart enough to stay neutral. And then the real wave hit. By noon, 6 clients, had either announced or privately confirmed their transition to Marcy's new team. Quiet NDAs were already in motion. Procurement departments were rerouting invoices. One client, a 7-year partner, commented publicly, "We go where the relationship is." Good luck to anyone who thinks automation can replace empathy. It was like watching a tide roll in and drown everything the firm thought it had secured with quarterly decks and CRM dashboards. Back at her old company, panic went full throttle. Someone leaked the internal Slack message from the CEO, "We are facing a significant perception crisis. Do not engage with LinkedIn threads," as if perception was the issue. As if the ship was sinking because someone saw the hole instead of plugging it 2 months ago. And Tyler was trending on Reddit. A post in r/consulting made the front page within hours. How to alienate your top clients in 2 days flat, featuring Tyler the Destroyer. The OP broke it all down, anonymous sources, client losses, the infamous email blunder that got CC'd to a rival COO. Top comment, Tyler sounds like the kind of guy who tries to optimize a handshake. By dinner, there were memes. Tyler's face photoshopped onto a burning building. A fake book cover titled, "Relationship Management for Sociopaths," forward by Tyler. But Marcy didn't comment. Didn't repost, even like the thread. She didn't need to. She was sitting at her new desk, high above downtown, in a corner office that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. The tea was hot, Earl Grey, no sugar. Across from her, a young strategist, nervous, bright-eyed, was giving her the rundown on the onboarding pipeline. We're expecting 2 more by next week. One's just waiting for legal to review Fulcrum's privacy language, but he said, and I quote, "I don't care what it says if Marcy wrote it." She smiled, soft, quiet, the kind of smile that doesn't need to prove anything anymore. Outside the window, the city pulsed forward like it always does, deals being signed, firms being reshaped, names being remembered or deleted. Marcy leaned back, lifted her mug, and sipped, not out of spite, not even for closure, just because it tasted like earned peace. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.